Welcome to the Explainer. So, think about the human body for a second. It's not just a random collection of parts. It is an incredibly complex, living, breathing, three-dimensional map. And just like navigating a massive continent, medical professionals need a highly precise language to find their way around it. Without that language, you're basically flying blind. So today, we are decoding anatomy and uncovering exactly how experts use structured terminology to navigate this incredible biological map. Here's the roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with the danger of ambiguity, establish the anatomical position, learn how to use directional terms, dive deep into the superior-inferior axis, and finally, complete our 3D map. All right, part 1, the danger of ambiguity. Let's kick things off with a quick thought experiment. Imagine you're a doctor, right? You glance at a patient's chart and see a quick note that says they have a scar above the wrist. Take a second. Look at your own arm. Where exactly are you picturing that scar? I mean, did you picture it on your forearm or maybe a couple of inches up onto your actual hand? Is it on the palm side, the back side? You see the problem here immediately. Words we use every single day, like above or below or front, they're totally relative. It completely depends on how you're standing or what you happen to be focusing on at that exact moment. And in a medical setting, that gray area is literally a recipe for dangerous errors. We absolutely cannot have a surgeon guessing what above actually means. So how do we fix this? Well, anatomists and healthcare pros use a super standardized vocabulary. Fun fact, even the word anatomy comes from Greek roots meaning to cut apart. But here's the real genius of it. The directional terms we use are derived almost entirely from ancient Greek and Latin. Why? Because they're dead languages. Since nobody is casually chatting in ancient Latin at the coffee shop, the meanings of these words literally never change. They don't evolve over time. This locks in their definitions permanently, completely wiping out any chance of confusion across the globe. Which brings us to part 2, the anatomical position. Okay, so every single time an anatomist or a doctor describes the human body, they are picturing it in this one exact pose. The person is standing completely upright. Their feet are shoulder-width apart, parallel, with the toes pointing straight forward. The arms are held slightly out to the sides, and this is key, the palms of the hands are facing forward. This specific stance is our ground truth. It's the absolute, unchanging compass for the human body. No matter what, this is our default reference point. Think of it like this. When you look at a physical map, north is always at the top, right? Well, the standard body map does the exact same thing with this upright stance. And this is a massive deal because it means even if a patient is lying face down on an operating table, which we call prone, or lying face up in a hospital bed, which is supine, our directional terminology doesn't change. We always describe their anatomy as if they were standing right there in that standard position. It takes all the guesswork out of the equation. Moving right along to part 3, using directional terms. Now that we have our compass, how do we actually read the map? The secret here is that these directional terms almost always come in pairs. They're binary opposites. It's kind of like the X, Y, and Z axes on a 3D graph. By using these opposing pairs, we can precisely pinpoint where one organ, bone, or tissue sits in 3D space relative to another one. Let's dive into part 4 and really focus in on the core of today's explainer, the superior-inferior axis. Let's look at our first binary pair on this vertical axis. Superior describes a position that is above or higher than another part of the body. And directly opposite to that, we have inferior, which just means a position below or lower than another part. Essentially, it's the scientifically rigorous way of saying top and bottom, but locked permanently into that standard reference position we just talked about. Now, depending on who you're talking to or the exact context, you're frequently going to hear superior referred to as cranial. You probably know the word cranium means skull, right? Well, that's exactly what's happening here. Cranial literally means toward the head end of the body. Because humans stand upright in the anatomical position, cranial and superior are pretty much interchangeable when we want to say higher up. And the exact opposite of cranial is caudal. Caudal means toward the tail. Now, obviously humans don't have a wagging tail, so in our case, this refers to the very lowest part of the spinal column, the coccyx. So if a structure is pointing down the body, away from the head, it's moving in a caudal or inferior direction. Let's map this onto your own body right now so it really clicks. Your nose is superior to your mouth. Makes sense, right?
It's physically higher up along that vertical axis. If we look a bit deeper inside, your stomach is inferior to your heart because it sits below it. And looking at the broader picture, your entire pelvis is inferior to your abdomen. By using these relative terms, we build a perfect mental picture of how things stack up along that head-to-tail axis.
Finally, let's wrap things up with part 5, completing the 3D map.
So we've got the vertical axis down, now we just fill in the rest of the 3D grid. For the front and back, we use anterior for the front and posterior for the back. For example, your sternum is anterior to your heart. Then we have medial, which means toward the midline of your body, and lateral, which means further out to the side. When it comes to your arms and legs, proximal means closer to where the limb attaches to your trunk, while distal means further away, like your fingers are distal to your elbow. And lastly, superficial means closer to the surface, like your skin, while deep is exactly what it sounds like, further inside, like your bones. All these pairs work exactly like superior and inferior to give us a totally flawless coordinate system. I know it feels like a whole new vocabulary to memorize, but honestly, mastering these terms is about so much more than just acing a biology test. This absolute, unchanging precision is a real game changer. It completely wipes out ambiguity. When a medical team communicates without a shadow of a doubt about where something is, it directly improves patient care. It keeps people safe. It ensures the right treatments happen in the exact right spot every single time.
So, I'm going to leave you with a bit of a challenge to test what you've learned today. Think about a common ache or pain you've had recently. You got one? Okay, now try to describe exactly where it is, but only use your newly learned directional terms and that standard anatomical position. Is that pain proximal to your knee? Is it superficial on your posterior side? Give it a try. Start using this precise 3D medical map yourself. So what does your map look like right now? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.